Hello everybody and welcome along to another edition of the River Wide Ball and another beautiful January day. And I suppose if you like, the indications are that a lot of restrictions are going to be lifted, so we could say that the rays of hope are shining through all those COVID clouds that people had to endure for the past 2 years. I've decided to wear a tie to honour the occasion. Maybe I'm a bit premature. Is it the beginning of the end? Hopefully it is, and that the 8 o'clock closing time will be up to 12, and there'll be increased capacity in the stadia. So hopefully it's going to be the end of all that kind of carry on now, and I suppose personal responsibility then will take over. In this week's edition we're going to have our usual mix of GAA, rugby, soccer, a little bit of American football and golf. And I suppose starting with GAA, this is the time of the year when the third level colleges have their day in the sun, the Sigerson and the Fitzgibbon Cup. And for the Sigerson, unfortunately, UCC, after 2 defeats, are out the gap. MTU, which was formerly known as CIT, they were, after their good win over UCC, they were beaten on Tuesday night against their Kerry campus, if you like, and they have one game left next week, and if they lose that, they're out. The hurling is done slightly differently in that it's in groups, and UCC are in a group, a 14 group with Mary Isle from Limerick, NUI Galway, and UCD. A big win yesterday for them against Mary Isle, and then they play, it's UCD next week, and then NUI G the following week. And in the other, for MTU, they're in a group with 2 other teams, with GMIT and Trinity College, and they play their opening game next week against Trinity. It's a huge weekend in terms of the All-Ireland club hurling competitions, with the semi-finals being played in the senior, intermediate and junior. And unfortunately we have only an interest in the junior. Cork clubs not performing that well this year in the senior and intermediate, but obviously people will have a huge interest in the competition nonetheless. The senior one, on all games on Sunday at 1:30. The 2 senior games, by the way, in TG Carrio, Ballygunner playing Slough-Neil, and Ballygunner, who I think yet to win this All-Ireland. They'll be slightly favourites here, but Slough-Neil are a tenacious club in County Derry that have been serving their county and province well. I'd expect Ballygunner to get over that one. And the other game at 3:30, then you've St Thomas's from Galway, who did win an All-Ireland in the past, as far as I can remember. They're taking on the kings of this competition, Ballyhale Shamrocks. So I suppose the thinking is that Ballyhale and Ballygunner could get to the final. We'll keep an eye on that one. The intermediate, though, is most unusual in that the 4 teams in it this year actually have won their senior county championships in their own county, but because their 4 counties, Mayo, Kildare, Kerry and Derry, are designated as weaker counties in hurling, which they are, they're allowed to play in the intermediate grade. And I think it's a great idea. And we've Turin of Mayo playing Naas at 1:30. Now Turin, some people from East Cork might remember them. Father O'Neill's beat them in 2020 in the All-Ireland semi-final by 4 points only, so they're a good side. And then you've Kilmiley, who have beaten the best of Tipperary, best of Waterford, and a few weeks ago I got over Coursey Rovers at Cork will play Banagher from Derry, and that game, as I said, going on at 2 o'clock. But our real interest is in the All-Ireland Junior semi-finals, and they take place on Sunday as well. The first one is Saltine Lochnacara will be taking on Mooncoin from Kilkenny. That's at 1:30. But prior to that, at 12:30, we've the meeting of the mighty Ballygiblin taking on Fulham Gaels from Manchester. And I suppose this semi-final has a story built up around the venue for this, because when it was announced last week that it was going to be played in Abbottstown with a small capacity, I think only about 600, the people of Ballygiblin, well led by their officer board, kind of raised all sorts of concerns, and I know people got involved in social media. The match then was moved to Portlaoise. No, it's probably not totally suitable for Fulham Gaels. They fly into Manchester. They fly in from Manchester to Belfast on Sunday morning. Then they must travel down to Portlaoise, and they exit the country via Dublin Airport a little bit later on. But the people of Ballygiblin and Mitchelstown, what an incredible opportunity for them now to go to an All-Ireland semi-final. And when they won the final, the Munster final a couple of weeks ago, they visited the primary schools, which is, I think, a huge part of winning any major competition, you know, to pass on the message, if you like, to the next generation. But they didn't have a cup because, you know, the GAA now don't give out cups. Please God, that would all stop. But that didn't stop the people of Ballygiblin. They found that they're into a bit of point-to-pointing up there. They found a point-to-point cup just polished up, and sure, when they arrived in the schools, the children all wanted to see their heroes. It was done in very COVID-compliant fashion with the kids in their pods and the schools of Mitchelstown and Ballygiblin. We're only too glad to welcome them in. So well done to everybody who organised that. But anyway, for Sunday's game, and again, you know, sometimes we think of maybe Foreign Gaels, we've a tendency to think of them maybe as being like teams from weaker counties. Well, you can see now in the intermediate where the weaker county teams have got. And Foreign Gaels are made up of players from, you know, that have played at the highest level of hurling here before they went across for employment or whatever. We've two guys from East Cork, Kevin Finley from Kildare is the team captain, and you have Darren Cusick, he's the goalkeeper. I think his aunt was Mary O'Connor, who was a well-known dual player in her day. So, and there will be a lot of interest all over the country, and it will be nice that the people that from these clubs, like I'd imagine Kildare people will go up, say for example, to this match. But anyway, it's there to be won, because the big thing is to get to an All-Ireland final. In Ballygiblin, they have a 2-person management team. Dave Moore, who's the local individual, and I'm sure has done incredible work down through the years, and Ronan Dewan, and Ronan Dewan's hairstyle has captured the imagination here. I suppose it grew during lockdown and he could find a shearer to cut it, if you wish. So then when they got to the North Cork final, the decision was made, look, if we win that, you can get a haircut. But sure, look, they won it, and they were out 6 days later against Passage. Then they got a county final against Drumtariff, and they won that to record their first ever county. Were they going to cut it then? Not really, no. So hair is growing all the time. Then the big win in the Munster Championship, and they're still in position. So he survives for another day, and hopefully they get to Croke Park, and she'll want to be part of a wonderful occasion to shear him somewhere up around there. They're a really good team as well, of course. It must be taken, that must be said, and they've proven that in their championship run so far. Fionn Hurley, their team captain, plays at full back. Then you have Mark Keane, who has decided to stay around, and I know he's involved now in coaching in the schools around the Mitchelstown and Ballygiblin area. All of these guys are past pupils, but they have 2 present pupils of Mitchelstown CBS, Ryan Donegan and Dylan Sheehan. And you know, I'm only just naming a few of the players now are involved. Joseph O'Sullivan, their very talkative free-taking accountant. Dara Flynn, their Cork under 20 player and Cork senior panellist now. Like I just hope that his problem with shin splints, as far as I know, that won't prevent him from playing a role in this particular match. And then you have Colin English, who transferred in from Tipperary a couple of years ago. This is a good decision by him and for the club as well, both Ballygiblin Hurling and Mitchelstown football. And of course you have the mighty Shawnee Goals, Shawnee O'Sullivan, the farmer, relief milker, call him what you wish, who has developed a bit of a reputation for himself as a great goal scorer. And all of these guys are, we've kind of got to know them through the media, really solid individuals, and I've no doubt they will. So it's going to be represent their club well. It's going to be another massive day for the people of Ballygiblin and indeed the people of Mitchelstown. Moving on then, we have this McGrath Cup final taking place on Saturday in Fitzgerald Stadium in Kildare. And the way Jack O'Connor has approached, the other 2 teams in the Limerick and Tipperary, where Kerry absolutely annihilated them with nearly full string teams. I'd imagine he's waiting for Keith Ricken and his new group of Cork footballers to come down to Kildare to give them a serious bit of a trimming as well. The Cork team will, because of because of the involvement with the Sigerson Cup, won't be named until maybe tomorrow, what have you. So that's going to be an interesting one, because the league started in the week after with Cork going to Roscommon. That's a big match in the Hyde Park, I suppose. And you have you then have, what have you? I noticed one addition to backroom staff is that Paul Galvin has joined Kildare. Just think about that now for a minute. And they're playing Kerry in the first match. Jack O'Connor ran out of Kildare when the option to train Kerry came up, or coach Kerry. So it'll be a nice little bit of banter, I'd imagine, going on in that match before any ball is kicked. Then we became aware of, I suppose over the past while, the divisional boards have been a little concerned about the time that's available for them to run their junior championships, because the fact that they have to meet county board deadlines. I think there was only about 7 weeks available to them, and to be honest, they weren't capable of running a championship. Anybody couldn't. So I think the general thinking now is, look, let the junior championships go ahead, let them play in the county championship, but the Cork junior football champions, as we know them, would not be representing Cork at Munster, and that gives more of a time for the divisional boards to run their championship. And I think that's a good idea. Just doing it for one team, really, So there are a number of options before the county board meeting on the 2nd of February, I think it is. And that's basically, that league, by the way, is 2 weeks' time as far as I know. The option I would favour, it's only my own opinion, is I think it's known as option B. And what it would mean is that there'd be 5 championships in Cork, as there is in hurling right now. And they'd rename the bottom one, which is lower intermediate, that would be called Premier Junior. And the winners of that would represent Cork. To have a corresponding setup in football, because there are 4 championships in football at the moment, 3 12 teams and 1 16 team. The intermediate A is an intermediate championship. They would simply create another grade, call it the Premier Junior Football, and that would be made up of 4 teams which would come down at the end of 2022 from the intermediate A, and to make up the 12, the 8 divisional junior football champions would be added. There is no perfect scenario, I totally accept that. Now, some of the divisions might be a tad disappointed because some of them were looking forward to welcoming the teams in the lower intermediate hurling back into the divisions. But from talking to teams that are in that grade, they're quite happy with what they have at the moment. And look, that's, I think, important. So, for what it's worth, we'll be talking about option B for that one, and hopefully that gets through. As I said, I'm not saying that is the perfect answer. There never is perfect answers in scenarios like this. Anyway, moving on to soccer and the Carabao Cup. The second leg of the second semi-final is on tonight. That's between Arsenal and Liverpool. And they're 0-0 from the first game, and of course Arsenal now, who didn't play last weekend because of COVID, which annoyed their sports counterparts. So that's that game. The Premier League then starts on Friday night, and games on Saturday and Sunday. I suppose there's only one game on Friday night. I'm not too sure how many of you follow either Norwich or Watford, but Adam Ide plays, the Corkman plays for Norwich, and remember, it was his goals and Norwich's win that brought about the firing of Everton's Rafael Benitez last weekend. 195 days he only lasted in the job. So anyway, that's the Friday game. And Saturday, actually, Everton, that'll have a caretaker manager, Duncan Ferguson, in. They take on Aston Villa. Leeds, who had a great win last week over West Ham, and I know we keep mentioning there's a lot of supporters around Cork, played the recently enriched Newcastle United, who are still second from bottom and are in real danger of going down. Manchester United, how they're surviving is nearly beyond understanding at this stage, because they have a good goalkeeper, and when your goalkeeper is man of the match on a number of occasions, there's something not right. Eventually they'd get over Brentford last night, but David De Gea was outstanding, and for long stages that game Brentford were the better side. But anyway, United did get over and they play West Ham, who I presume will be smarting after that defeat to Leeds. Manchester City, who were 11 points ahead, despite the fact that I know Liverpool have a game in hand, but they take on Southampton. Arsenal now, who are kind of vying with Burnley up there, would you believe? Not with Burnley, we'll take on Burnley, but they're vying with Spurs maybe for that coveted fourth spot. Arsenal, they take on Burnley. Crystal Palace will host Liverpool, and then you have Chelsea versus Spurs, and of course Chelsea, the wheels have come off their wagon to a certain degree, lost to City, drew with Brighton, but Spurs had a brilliant win last night. For those of you that followed that particular outfit, got 2 goals I think, to win 3-2 in the 95th and 97th minute. So yeah, some interesting games there coming up in the Premier League. Moving on to rugby, and the 37-man panel for the upcoming Six Nations was announced during the weekend. There was no great surprises. The majority of the players are there from the autumn series, and it's good that Gavin Coombs is in. Remember, because of, I think it was illness, he wasn't able to play in that, so hopefully now he gets his chance. And it was good as well, I think, that RT and Virgin Media have come together for a joint offer, and the games will be free to air. The 6 games and the 5 games that Ireland will play, all the games will be free to air, including the Ladies Six Nations and the Under-20. The Champions Cup, and I'm not too sure what to say about this in one sense, because after last week's hammering of Montpellier by Leinster by 89 points to 7, the fact that Cass fielded made 13 changes for their match against Munster, it just indicates that the French are not putting serious value on this competition. Maybe that's because of COVID and all of that, and they're interested in their own county championship, the top 14 back home. But the remaining games in the group stages played this weekend, and it looks like for the first time ever that all 4 Irish provinces are going to qualify. That hasn't happened. 3 of them did, but Connacht haven't, and the fact that they'd all do it at the 1 year is an indication of, you know, maybe the strength of the Irish teams as against maybe some of the I suppose, look, it has been really disrupted, this competition. Anyway, on Saturday, Leinster will travel to Bath at 1 o'clock for their game. Claremont of Ireland will come to Ulster for a 5:30 game, and then on Sunday you've Connacht going to Stade Francais, and even though the Connacht would like to win it, I think they'll qualify anyway, and Munster play Wasps at 3:15. One of the big stories developing around Munster now is the position of the out half, and of course we have a vested interest here in that our neighbour Billy Crowley, who played so well last week, okay, he made a couple of concentration mistakes, but everything else about his play, he's only 22 years of age, and when you know about his grandparents like I do, this doesn't surprise me. This is one head and shoulders handy player as well, let me tell you. But there's only so many opportunities for number 10 in Ireland. There's only 4 club teams in Ireland, most, you know, the 4 provinces as we know them, and it's a very, very select position. It's not a bit like GAA where fellas can move around. So he plays at number 10, and the first battle now is who is the Joey Carberry has been selected for Ireland, though he's injured, so he's off for the next couple of weeks, and I think there will be a number of Munster will play a number of outstanding games in the United Rugby Championship. I'm not too sure what's the story with them, but who gets the number 10 jersey? Is it going to be Billy Crowley or Ben Healy? And there is no doubt in my limited mind, if some coach takes a real chance with Billy Crowley, he would become a top class not alone player for Munster but for Ireland as well. So we're looking forward to know how all of that will pan out over the next while, if you wish. Then we have moving on to the golf, and I know that some of you would have a bit of interest in that Seamus Power last week. Remember, we talked about him. Well, he's now in the top 15. He must stay there until the end of March to get the visit from the postman telling him he can play in the US Masters. He's moved up about 400 places in the last 12 months, and there are 2 major tours, I'm told, in this golf: the PGA and the DP World Series, which commences this week. And a lot of the big guys now are coming back into this. Now Seamus Power is going to be in action, and he's taking part in the American Express on the PGA Tour, and then you've this Abu Dhabi HSBC Championship, and that takes place out in one of those Emirates where there's plenty of bucks, and 3 Irishmen will be out there. Now sometimes there's a bit of discussion about this sports money, if they want to call it that, but anyway, look, you have Shane Lowry, Rory McElroy and Padraig Harrington, but seeing that we started following Seamus Power, at least we've been given some information. Hopefully he will stay in the top 50. And finally then, for those of you that follow American football, they're down out to the last 8, and on 2 games on Saturday and 2 games on Sunday. Bengals take on the Titans and the 49ers take on the Packers on the Saturday games. The Titans and the 49ers are supposed to be the teams that would probably come through there. And then on Sunday, the 2 big matches, obviously the Rams versus the Buccaneers with the mighty Tom Brady playing, and the Chiefs take on the Bills with Patrick Mahomes, this guy who's on now only €750,000 a week. Think about that now for a moment. So yeah, please God, the tide is rising. We'll all be feeling better, and a little bit of, if it's a new normality, so be it. We'll come back into our lives, and until we chat again, mind yourself and take care.